Ever looked at an old map and wondered about the stories behind the borders? We see the names of kings, emperors, and generals etched into history. But what if I told you that one of the most significant redrawings of the world map was orchestrated by a queen whose name has been almost completely erased? This isn't just a forgotten ruler. This is a story of power, betrayal, and a legacy deliberately scrubbed from the history books. We're going to uncover the tale of the queen who reshaped empires, a phantom of history whose influence is still visible today, even if her name isn't. Our story begins in the heart of a bustling ancient empire, an empire teetering on the brink of either greatness or collapse. The king, a figure known more for his lavish parties than his political savvy, was on the throne. But behind the scenes, the real power was his queen. She was born into a minor noble family, a political marriage intended to secure a shaky alliance. No one expected much from her. She was supposed to be a decorative piece, a producer of heirs. But they vastly underestimated her. She had a mind sharper than any sword in the kingdom, and an ambition that dwarfed even the most power-hungry courtiers. From the shadows of the court, she began to learn. She devoured books on strategy, diplomacy, and economics. She would listen, unseen, to the council meetings, absorbing every detail, every weakness, every opportunity. While the king was distracted by his pleasures, she was building a network of loyal spies and officials. Not through threats, but through competence. She solved problems the king's advisors couldn't. A famine in the north? She devised a new grain distribution system. A trade dispute in the south? She personally negotiated a deal that was more profitable than anyone thought possible. Slowly, silently, the levers of power began to shift into her hands. The army commanders, the treasurers, the diplomats, they all knew who was really in charge. They respected her, not for her title, but for her results. Then came the crisis. A coalition of neighboring kingdoms, seeing the perceived weakness of her husband's rule, declared war. They saw an easy target, a ripe prize for the taking. The king panicked. His generals were divided. The court was in chaos. It was in this moment of absolute peril that the queen stepped out from the shadows and into the light. She convened the war council. Her presence was a shock, but her plan was a revelation. It was audacious, brilliant, and terrifyingly risky. She didn't just propose a defense. She proposed a counter-invasion that would not only neutralize the threat, but permanently reshape the region's balance of power. Some called her mad, others called her a genius. But with the enemy at the gates, they had no other choice but to listen. She didn't just plan the war. She ran it. From a command tent miles from the front, she coordinated troop movements, managed supply lines, and directed diplomatic maneuvers to break the enemy coalition apart. She used her intelligence network to anticipate every move her opponents made, turning their own strategies against them. It was a masterclass in warfare, fought not just with soldiers, but with information, economics, and psychological pressure. The war lasted for years, a brutal and bloody affair. But in the end, her strategy prevailed. The enemy coalition shattered. Their armies were defeated, their lands conquered. Her empire didn't just survive. It expanded beyond its wildest dreams. The map had been redrawn, and it was her hand that had guided the pen. The victory was absolute. The queen was hailed as a savior. For a brief, shining moment, her power was undeniable. She was the de facto ruler, the architect of a new golden age. She began implementing sweeping reforms, building new cities, funding arts and sciences, and creating a more just legal code. Her reign, though unofficial, was proving to be one of the most prosperous in the empire's history. But power, especially for a woman in her time, is a fragile thing. Her success had earned her not just allies, but also powerful enemies. The old guard, the nobles she had sidelined, the courtiers whose incompetence she had exposed, they seethed with resentment. And most dangerously of all, her own husband, the king, began to see her not as his savior, but as his rival. His ego, wounded by her brilliance, turned to paranoia. He saw her popularity with the people and the army as a direct threat to his throne. The whispers of his jealous advisors found fertile ground. They painted her ambition as treason, her competence as a plot to usurp him. A conspiracy began to form in the darkest corners of the palace, a plot to remove the queen who had grown too powerful. It was a slow and insidious campaign. First, her allies were reassigned to distant posts or falsely accused of crimes. Then, her access to the treasury was cut off. Finally, she was placed under house arrest, isolated from the very power structure she had built. The king, now fully controlled by the resentful nobles, began the final and most cruel part of his plan, erasing her from history. The process was systematic and ruthless. Her name was chiseled off monuments. Her image was removed from tapestries and paintings. Official records were rewritten, attributing all her achievements, the military victories, the economic reforms, the legal codes, to the king or his male advisors. Chroniclers and historians were ordered, under penalty of death, to omit her from their accounts. It was as if she had never existed. An entire generation grew up knowing only the official story, the tale of a great king who had single-handedly saved the empire and expanded its borders. The queen who had actually done it was relegated to a footnote, a nameless consort, a ghost in her own story. So how do we even know about her? The truth, as it often does, survived in the margins. In fragments of banned texts, in coded letters from her loyalists, in the folklore of the common people who never forgot the queen who saved them from famine, and in the archaeological evidence that contradicts the official histories. Modern historians, piecing together these scattered clues like detectives, have slowly reconstructed her story. They found evidence of her supply routes, uncovered the foundations of cities she commissioned, and deciphered letters that detailed her war strategies. The evidence is overwhelming. History was not just written by the victors. It was rewritten by insecure men terrified of a powerful woman. Her story is a powerful reminder that history is not a fixed, objective record. It is a narrative shaped and reshaped by those in power. For every king whose name we remember, how many brilliant queens, advisors, or innovators have been deliberately forgotten? Her legacy is not in her name, which we may never know for certain. Her legacy is written on the map itself, in the borders she drew with her strategic genius. It lives on in the cultural and legal foundations of the region she transformed. She is the unnamed architect of an era, a testament to the fact that true influence can never be completely erased. Her story forces us to ask, what other truths are hiding in the shadows of our recorded past? Who else have we been taught to forget? The search for this unnamed queen continues. Each new discovery, each translated fragment, adds another piece to the puzzle of her life and reign. She is more than just a historical curiosity. She is a symbol of silenced voices and hidden power. Her story is a challenge to all of us to look beyond the official narratives, to question what we've been told, and to seek out the forgotten figures who truly shaped our world. The next time you look at a map, remember her. Remember the queen who changed the world, even after the world tried its best to forget her. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the hidden corners of history. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more tales that history tried to hide. Let me know in the comments what you think about this unnamed queen. Until next time, keep questioning.